Hey everyone, welcome to the Maegical Stories of Healing and Spiritual Gifts podcast. My name is David Staub, here with my lovely wife, Miss Megan.
Hey everyone.
And from the bottom of our hearts, man, I can't even tell you how excited and genuinely grateful we are to have two very, very special guests with us today.
Yep.
Talk about
They're
authenticity.
amazing.
It's such an impact on just kind of blowing our minds in multiple ways. Gage, Gorman, and Casey Gervig. I'm going to say that right?
Yes.
Yep, I did. Okay, cool. They run and the founded company Energy is Everything, which, that's
everything is, no, yeah, energy is
Energy is everything, yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm my bad.
which we, on our journey, that's a whole nother thing. We've met you guys, and since then, we've just been learning so much more about that concept. Gage is an incredible authenticity mentor. Casey, essential oils, sound healing, sound and vibrational healing, fasting coach. Thank you both. And that's just, barely gets into everything they do. Thank you both so much for agreeing to come on with us.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Yeah, we our community Maegical, it's rare that we've clicked so much with, we aligned so much with everything you guys talk about. We're trying to share as much and get our community as involved. So
I'm always like, my mind is blown every time.
I know. So our community, we're trying, for those of you that are listening that don't follow them, we're going to put a bunch of links and stuff to check them out, because I would have to say there's really been no group of people or anyone that we've aligned and clicked so much with. So again, we're so excited to be talking with you both here.
I get on Facebook to look at animal videos, of course, check our Magical page.
Yeah.
And then the next thing is always looking at y'all's stuff. That's the things I look at anytime I get on Facebook.
Cool.
I think that's what my MeWe journey has turned into, is our page and your page. And that's about all I look at.
We got to make that move completely.
Megan, I
do.
She tells me at least one or two times a day, David, start on getting on MeWe. I'm like, oh, I forgot. That's right.
I'm like, Gage, put the comment.
It's a big deal. It's a big thing to get the new app and how everything works and how everything posts.
And MeWe doesn't have, as part of moving into what we're talking about, energy is everything. MeWe doesn't have the addictive logarithm program running into it like Facebook.
Oh, interesting.
Which is why, if you've noticed, you get on Facebook and you go through the feed, and all of a sudden you get on for 2 minutes and you're on for an hour and a half. You get on MeWe to check a few things for 2 minutes and you're off in 5 minutes. But then you end up.
So interesting. I never knew that.
Wow, okay.
I did not notice that. That's so interesting.
Huge, because people are on there all day long.
All day, absolutely. I want them to get the. I want us to be able to do videos on there. I don't think you can do that.
Live videos. Can you do live?
Can you do live videos on there?
Yeah, but MeWe is. I'll say they're quite open to influence and change. I noticed when I joined a couple of years ago and then kind of just left it sit there.
Yeah.
When I had first joined, they had up for their food emojis, they had pizza and meat, and I had wrote them and said, as part of making a more conscious future, how about we put the headline for your emojis, how about you put things other than meat or dairy or something like that? And if you go in there now, you'll see they don't have meat and dairy as they have an example of 4 emojis that you can go into. And now a salad and a watermelon.
I think there was some coffee cup too.
They did have a coffee cup. I was like, oh, you know what? They already did the meat dairy. I'm not going to go back. There is a coffee cup, right? And I don't remember what the 4th one is, but they did. I found that was pretty awesome. They switched.
Yeah.
Send that email.
I will.
They do have. I feel they're going to move there, because for them, you pay for your storage. You only get 10 gigabytes for free, like your Gmail. Yep. And then if you want more, you can pay $4.99 a month, and then you get 100 gigabytes, which that's pretty much a lot. And then you can manage the cloud storage on there too. So you can start deleting your old videos or old posts and get your cloud storage back.
Oh, cool.
And everything is owned by you. Guaranteed.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's big.
The hosting is on Amazon Web Services, which pretty much everything cloud is Amazon Web Services or iCloud. Those are 2 of the huge storages. And then Microsoft has one as well. And So even with MeWe's contract with Amazon Web Services, which is actually where your information is sitting, the contract is between them two that the information is always solely owned by you. If you delete your account, all the backups and everything related to it are deleted and wiped out.
Wow.
I didn't know they were, I thought they were new. I didn't know it was an old company.
Pardon?
I said, I thought they like were brand new. I didn't even know. You said you've been on there for a couple of years. I'm like, what?
A couple of years.
Wow.
It just, the momentum, it like gets these waves of momentum, and then people tend to go back to Facebook because of the addictive programming in Facebook.
Yeah.
So it's, essentially the alcoholic who stops drinking and then goes and has a drink again, and that's good.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna eventually get our stuff all over there.
Yeah.
We got to get on that. Well, we would love to hear you from where you guys are right now. You guys have come so far. I mean, from different backgrounds. Casey, I totally resonate with a lot of yours from addiction standpoint. I have a lot of addiction past, and I've had to really deeply overcome that. Tried all of the world's ways, and surprise, didn't work.
No way.
But going within and unlocking certain gifts did. Could you guys? I'd love it if you guys could take a minute and just tell us a bit about y'all's backgrounds. How did you come to be the beings you are now, or remember who you really were that you are now, I guess I should say. How did you guys each come to do that? You both have such different, unique stories. I remember reading them, but if you guys could talk about that, we'd love to hear that.
Sure. You want to go first, Love?
Sure. So I feel like I had just this moment where I just needed to get out, and I just needed to escape the city and the congestion and the density of where I was living. And I decided that I was going to leave my job that I'd been working for 10 years. And I was almost ready to buy that. It was a repair shop for cars. And I was almost ready to buy it. And I was, doing all the like sales trainings, and they're teaching us the NLP, the customers, and they're just, something felt like it was changing. And that wasn't something that I wanted to continue with. So I decided I would move to Texas and help my friend David, or our friend David, open a wedding venue in Johnson City. And it was just kind of like I was asking for something different. And then in that time when I was in Texas, I was in nature, and I was, painting fences and with horses, and just, it was really cool.
Oh, nice.
And I feel like in that time, I learned how to just be a little bit, I feel like it's been a 4-year process of learning how to be. But
that's the same time frame for us. That's crazy.
Yeah. And how not to be in a hurry when you're not in a hurry, but there's this hurry. So basically I was just asking for something different. And when I was in Texas, I was really making time to do like the creative processes. And at that time, it was the vision board and the Abraham Hicks stuff. And, I was into it, and honestly, it worked. Really.
I was into it in the beginning as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And so,
there is a lot of good in it.
And
there is.
It's true. And that's the thing. Most people don't know how to maintain that vibration. But I feel like I was pretty good at staying in that vibe. I didn't want to hear anything that anyone was going to say. It was going to take me out of my vibe. And, and that actually worked. It's like the mechanics of the physics of the vibration and what you're asking for, everything worked. So I personally feel like it was our relationship that kind of got us, we helped open, different pathways within each other just because we were so different. And so, our flow was, it was,
right.
I'd be like way over here, and Gage would be like way over here. So it's this kind of like, we kind of flowed like that for a while.
That's so cool.
But yeah, I feel like that was that was it. It was just it was almost like a desperation. Like, this is not what I came here for. And then as soon as I decided that I was leaving that job and that wasn't what I was going to do, and I mean, things just started happening really, really quickly. And it kind of became our focus. It became my focus, I'll say, before we met, to be expansive.
I was going to ask, this is kind of on topic, kind of off, but Casey, you had an incredible, on one of the lives, one of the things I was going to ask about when it comes to gifts, intuitive gifts, correct me if I'm wrong, but you had this incredible ability to speak to the vehicles and you were just, and that's, historically, it tends to be a bit of a different kind of mindset people take towards working on vehicles, mechanic type stuff. You had a totally different one, but you were so incredibly efficient to an intuitive standpoint. Could you speak on that? Because that blew my mind when I heard you talk about that.
Yeah, that's real interesting.
Yeah. So, and it's becoming more and more. That's kind of why Energy is Everything became our company name. Because it's like, this car is energy. This everything is energy. So I really, the type of cars that I've been in love with ever since I was a little kid was Porsche, and pretty much everything German. And so I had this like love for these cars. Obviously it wasn't love like, love, but
it's a love.
There was this, I feel like when you come from that place, the possibilities are expanded, and so yes, the cars would come in, and I would just be like, oh, hey, how's it going, just kind of checking in with the car, listening to it, feeling it, seeing what it feels, and then I would like pop the hood, and it would just be like, it would always be like, well, just what are you just looking at? What are you looking at? Try not to think, just look. And then I would look, and it would be like, oh, I would touch this connector, and all of a sudden the car would run like weird. And I would be like, oh, okay. So, something with this, So, and yeah, the cars would tell me, and, I could tell the cars that didn't like their owners, they would break so they could come back, and yeah, I've even had the owners like, okay, something is going on with this car. This car really wants to be like with you. Because it's like, whenever I would drive it, it would be perfect. And she actually reached out to see if I wanted to buy the car recently. She just was getting ready to sell it because she's like, I know this car loves you, and you worked on it for so long. Yeah, so the cars would, behave for me, and they would misbehave for their owners.
Two of the three cars we have right now are both that story of wow. The BMW we have, Casey worked on it for years. Yeah. The guy did a $12,000 job, decided for economical purposes to sell the car, and sold it to you for $6,000.
Oh, wow.
He did a $12,000 job on it.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I know.
And then the Porsche.
Yeah.
His race car, that's a similar story.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, that one kind of came. It was I got it for $10,000, and I just needed to do. It was for tax reasons we did.
Gotcha.
Different thing. I bought the engine separate from the car.
Oh, right. Okay.
So yes, which if anybody, that's a really good way to do it, because it's a $20,000 engine in a $5,000 car. Do the math, tax, and California.
They're in Texas. They don't have to worry about that.
Right. Oh my God. I loved that in Texas when it was like, build a barn. They're like, okay, build it. I'm like, they're like, nope. Only if you want a septic. That was the only thing. But yeah, so I kind of learned, and now it's been very much communicating with like the plants and things like that now. So it's really.
Did you say that they like lean in when they're communicating with the plants? They lean in, or
it's the muscle testing, and that's what I've used with the plants. With the cars, I didn't really need to do that, but so I'll say, show me a yes, and I'll feel it will like pull you forward. And if you say, show me a no, it will usually push me back. So I'm like, okay, do you want me to remove this leaf? And it was like, yes. And I'm like, are you sure? Show me a no. And it was like, okay, you want me to remove this leaf? It's like, yeah. Okay, all right, let's take it off. So yeah, there's different little tricks and things that you can do. Yeah.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that, man. I was so
Now,
curious. That stuck out to me. Gage
whose
gonna tell his
idea
story.
was it? I know, I was going to say, whose idea was it to move to Mount Shasta?
I feel like it was both of us.
Yeah, it's mutual.
Yeah.
I feel with
It
most,
looks beautiful there.
it is.
Yeah.
It is. Even right now, we are in our towns of Mount Shasta itself is a bubble, or in all authenticity, it's its own realm. You know, Mount Shasta being a massive portal hub for the multiverse.
Wow.
There's a lot of portals and openings here. And so even within our neighborhood is its own realm, and then our property is its own realm. And these realms are quite shielded right now based on things that we have done and other beings of consciousness that know how to do so. And so we're in a bubble, and we're surrounded by complete, hell on earth. Right.
Wow.
So cool. Well, Gage, yeah, tell us about how you came to where you are, Gage. Like, what was your background? What led you to this? I mean, you just the intuitiveness and the ability to just blown our mind, and the authenticity. I've never met anyone like that. It's so incredible. So I'd love to hear your story.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I will try to condense it. Maybe someday I'll have a longer version. I feel
Sounds
like
good.
series of novels. But since I've come here, I've been, as most children, I've been able to see and be aware and see through the veils and see portals and see authenticity. I can't even say the word. Authenticity. I was gonna say authentically. That's the word.
Oh, authentically.
I was mixed up. Authentically. And I was lucky to have parents who they didn't squash the imaginary friend who's not imaginary. That's the child seen through the veil, until their parents tell them it's imaginary. And then they believe the lie. And that is them giving up their abilities and consciousness as the child grows. I didn't have that influence. So because of that, I was able to develop from a child and continue to do so. I did, squash things or hide abilities going through high school and that such, because it's just difficult to know. I've always been able to know anyone who's lying. I've always been able to feel authenticity my entire life. I've never not felt it, to the point that I hated it. I wanted to go away. It's, how many people do you walk around this authentic?
Oh my gosh.
And it's not pain-free to feel lying. It hurts. Right? And most people feel it, but when you're conscious of it to feel it, then you're feeling that all the time when you're around people who are constantly pretending to fit in, right? Especially like high school or such like that. And so I had times where I would suppress it just to be able to function and be around other people and not be sick, right? Because it would physically make me ill. And so then moving through college had, I'll call it a few shifts to kind of keep it simple there. And then moving closer into like coming to, I grew up in Florida. I moved to California. That was a big shift for me. That move and everything, I'll just say, just fell into place when you allow a flow to happen, that move to occur. And that really projected me a lot further forward in my experience, because I was able to, just the culture difference between the East Coast and the West Coast. The West Coast is much more supportive of expansion, say openly with spirituality. This would have been around 2005. I feel things have shifted now more towards 2020. And then went through a series of exploring extreme illness. And I'll keep that part at that much for right now. I'm getting close to feeling comfortable, big pharma wise, to share what that is. But I'll say something that medical science would say is impossible to cure. Well,
Wow.
I haven't been to a doctor in a very long time, and I don't take medications, and I'm here, and science would tell you that's impossible. And so that really profoundly moved me a lot. Like that was a huge shift in my life, to be at a point to be alive and not dependent upon a system that tells you is required to be alive. And then, you know, I had in 2012, which I really didn't know in 2012, the importance of 2012. But ironically, I had sat down and had this moment in 2012 of realizing, like, work-wise, in the work that I was doing, that I was unhappy. And I'll also keep that short and just kind of keep it at that piece. And I sat down, instead of trying to visualize what I wanted in the actual job or the doing, I instead sat and said, how do I want to feel without any details? How do I want my day to be? And in a vague way, you know, I wake up, and my big things were, I wanted to control my own time. I was tired of, like, you got to be in the office, you know, you got to be in the office before all your employees, and you got to leave after your last employee. I wasn't into that anymore.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to control my own time. I wanted to be appreciated for what I did. I worked in a thankless role within investment banking and finance. The only appreciation is 20% profits this year, let's do 30 next year, and you're worthless if you don't. And we'll just find the next kid that'll do it and has the energy to do it. So keep up or you're out. That's, you know, that was the vibration. And yeah, there was no appreciation for what was done, because it was never enough, never. And there were a few more pieces in there. I remember I was even willing to take less pay, but that didn't end up happening. And I wanted to work with people who enjoyed what they did. Because, you know, a lot of people, they go to work for a paycheck, but they're miserable. They hate showing up every day. And I can feel everybody else's energy, and it just sucks. And so I wanted to be in an environment around people who authentically enjoyed and were passionate about what they were doing, because then I would be in that vibration. And I wanted to be around people smarter than me. I would quickly go into a company and become the go-to person who knew everything, but then that becomes boring and old over time. Like, I wanted to learn too. And within a month and a half, I had signed a contract with a different company, and I got all those things, and it's still the company to this day that I still work for on the other side. And they give me all this flexibility to do what we're doing here and all such. And so it has worked out well. And so then coming to some of the more, I'll say, political or earth, what a lot of people know as a 3D or 4D reality, a massive shift for me in that, because I didn't know about, I believed in extraterrestrials. I didn't know about Palladians or what a channeler really was, or, because to me, I just been seeing through the veil and talking to beings all this time. I didn't really know these labels and names and such like that. And they don't refer to themselves at those names. Those are very human earth things. Like the Palladians don't call themselves Palladians to each other. That's what humans call them. And so in 2000, well, I guess I'll start with us before I get to that piece. So when we met, I was also at a place I was very ready for a shift. I was married. And I had just recently been married to someone who, instead of using short words, I want to describe it lovingly. Someone who's been through a rough time in their existence and has had a lot of abandonment in their life and was dealing with their darkness, but someone who was here to be a really powerful light worker, but was consumed by evil and darkness at some of the highest levels. and knew members of the Council of 300, but didn't know what they were doing. And, but was infected by that type of energy. This was also someone who was part of the process that I'm alive here today. So this person showed up in my life when I was very sick. And they took care of me physically, emotionally, and they loved me and the kind of love that me and Casey shared. But I loved them in the kind of love of like, I love humanity, or like a brother, but not in that kind of way. But I had felt at that time obligated or guilty to, oh, and he made sure that I felt that way too. Sometimes we refer to these people as narcissists or psychopaths. And, you know, the empath and the narcissist story, if you're familiar with that common toxic combination, that is what this is. I just wanted to kind of build the story before I said that, because a lot of people have judgments around a narcissist or a psychopath, and help to understand where that comes from. And so I stayed in the relationship. It was about 7 years. It was about 6.5 years too long. And I thought maybe marriage would, you know, make it better. So I kind of just went there and like, I don't know, I'll just do this and hopefully he'll just, you know, I can stop walking on eggshells and being in trouble for everything I think about or do. That was the type of situation that was. Had a shift on a trip that we were on where I realized it was over. And this is around the same time now. So Casey's in Texas in his story. I'm on a trip in Peru, Brazil, and Argentina, and going to Lake Titicaca, Machu Picchu, Iguazu Falls, and sitting and having meditations and connections and spiritual movements, and realizing that it was time for a shift. And I felt, and I started to go into channel when I was both at Machu Picchu and Iguazu Falls. And knowing that everything on the table was going to go away and a whole new table was going to be presented. And this was going to happen within a year. And this did essentially from that point. This would have been November of 2014.
2014.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We our date's in December, and then we always forget is it what year it's in, because the next year 14 or 15. November 2014. And we had just, me and my ex had a big fight and argument. And when I say that, more on his side. And we ended up in Brazil with no access to money. Our cards, every machine you stuck it in got you'd go to withdraw $200 and it would say your card is declined, but the $200 was really removed from an ATM somewhere else. But then the companies would then close off my account, and I was in a foreign country and trying to take care of this, and ended up losing 3 credit cards, our bank card. And this was somehow my fault. This was how these things would go. I ruined the whole trip. I should have been better prepared. I should have brought more cash if I wasn't such a cheap ass, because it's cheaper to just use an ATM. That's the best. The best exchange rate is always to take your ATM card in a foreign country and get your money out of the bank. You'll get the best exchange rate without paying high fees. So there's also a tip for you for traveling, but not in Brazil, because Brazil's than the rest of the world. Literally has their own network because it's so corrupt. The other networks won't connect it.
Wow.
So
Wow.
Or maybe it's so good, we don't know.
Oh, or yes. And luckily had a good relationship with SPG hotels, and they actually gave us money. I traveled a lot for work and had a good relationship with them, and they gave us cash in Brazil to end up finishing our trip, since we had to and so it did work out. But that was a shift for me during that experience, to just know I'm ready for this shift. December was a group trip that we had in New Orleans. And that is where we connected again. And when I saw him, it was, you know, as if a million years had gone by in a millisecond. I just knew, like, it was just,
wow.
I knew I saw him for who and what he was. I saw us for who and what we were. And there was just a knowing, and everything in that moment just shifted. I remember we were on the boat, we were doing the steamboat up the Mississippi River. And this was a group trip of about 20 people that I had organized. And Casey was one of 2 people that were exceptions. I'm very careful about energy, from what I was explaining in the beginning.
Yeah.
I tend to like to know the guest list of something, and then I determine energetically if I'm going to be involved in that guest list. And so usually when I organize a group trip, I'm very picky with who's invited in that group. So it's rare for me to be open, especially to 2 people. And Casey was one of the people who wasn't part of the group.
Yeah. Glad that worked out, I guess, huh?
So that was it. Yeah, so that was me.
Barely got in.
It would have worked out anyway.
Right.
And then from there also, that could be a long story within itself of how that all worked out. But that was a shift of what brought us together. And there was a lot of components, like the unweaving of my marriage. He was moving from Texas to California. I traveled a lot for work, very heavily at that time. And we were actually able to utilize some of that. And I went through my divorce process with my ex, which was actually, for divorces, very smooth. I would say he had his moments of being in consciousness. He could see the authenticity, and he did love me. So he saw that I was really in love and able to connect with, I'm happy for you. And then, Jekyll Hyde would come in and about a minute later, but
of course.
And so that, I think, covers us pretty well.
Yeah.
And then moving to 2016, I feel, was one of my biggest shifts. And it was actually the night of the election. I was a hardcore Democrat, crying because Obama was leaving office.
Wow, I can't even believe that.
I know, that's so funny.
I lived in West Hollywood for many years, so I was very enthralled within the gay movement. I was very active in the Trevor Project, gay rights organizations, human rights campaign. I headed up the boycotts during, Prop 8? Was that 2014, 2012? I don't know if y'all remember Prop 8, the gay rights marriage movement. It started in California.
Yep.
I was one of the first publishers of all the businesses that donated to Yes on 8 politically. So I was heavily
You're in it.
Politically, and very much thought Trump was evil, and was very aware of the indoctrinated story of who and what he was. I had read his books. I had watched his show. It didn't always match the narrative I could see in the books, and I come from a finance and investment banking background, so I can also understand deeper than the details of what me being shown of what's really going on and the mechanics in the movement. But I was indoctrinated into that he was still bad, right? I believed he wasn't paying people, or that I could put together from his book and the deals that they would try to make look evil that he was doing, how it could look like that. And so, but I also felt in 2016, I knew energetically, I could see energetically everything that was going on. And so I knew that we were moving in a very loving direction. And so when he won, it was literally just like, does not compute.
Like, what the heck?
I was in complete shock. Just complete shock. For me, I was speechless, which, if you know me well enough, that's rare. And I astral projected out of my body. It becomes more and more difficult as we go through this process to give a time frame, at least 100 years. When I came back, it was really difficult for me to where am I? What planet am I on? Who are you?
Looking at that point, you astral projected for 100 years?
At least. It's difficult to just, time is different. Time only exists here within this planet. And the further you get away from Earth, time, the illusion of time, which is, it is an illusion, it dispels. And so when we astral project, when you astral project outside of time. Every human alive right now, your experience in the amount of years is over at least 1 billion years in this lifetime if you're over 20 years old. That is how much time travel you do in the astral realm, which would, some people call it dreaming. You are astral traveling, your dreams are all real. This is more unreal than your dream state.
Wow.
So that's why and that's why I explained that the time frame, when I say over 100 years, that's because I need to be authentic in what I'm saying in the constructs of time here. If I could step outside of authenticity of time, I would say it was 100 years to 1 billion years.
Whoa.
But I can't say consciousness wouldn't be able to understand that because it's outside of time. But what I'm doing in providing that time is to share with the ability to download in consciousness what is able to be retained and held within this space of an earth consciousness, essentially knowledge. And so you can even say at that point, walk-ins. Are you familiar with walk-ins if I say that? Or should I?
No.
So this is what happens. I got to remember what I'm talking about. I'm going to get off. What are we? But a walk-in essentially is we each have many fractals of our existence.
Mm-hmm.
There are many Davids and many, you're with me, okay.
So the timeline thing,
I'm
that concept blew my mind that I learned from you.
So what's happening is that we always have more versions of us. This is you or me.
Yep.
More is coming, more is coming, more is coming. Walk-ins, energy that's
Got it.
Oh, okay.
We have versions, and all of us have had them, that anything that would consider itself within the indigo spiritual realm category, but most all beings that are alive right now on the planet have had full walk-ins. Those exist too, where your entire portion of soul leaves and another entire portion of your soul walks into your experience. Most all of us had that as children. Every time that you've been suicidal, which we all know, everyone can say they have because of the experiences we've been through. When you've been serious about doing it, you're still here, you had a walk-in. That soul left the planet, a new soul came into you. That is you, but came in. And so also when we're in the astral realm, coming back to that experience in 2016 on the election evening, is that in astral realms, to see all these walk-ins, these different versions of me were able to start merging, which is why that time that I share is not linear, because if I have a version of me that's been in existence for 100 million years, and it merges into this experience, I now have the experience of that existence and consciousness for 100 million years.
Wow.
So that is why that time frame says 100 years to 1 billion years.
Really? Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, I love it.
Incredible.
That and not get a wobble authenticity meter wise, because now it's understood.
Yeah, I get it. Got it.
And so when I had come back to this awareness that we share here collectively on Earth, seconds, I look at him because he was there, like, well, within this kind of there. And, seconds, no more than a minute had gone by here.
Wow.
I was a completely different, I started explaining to him, and luckily we have he can feel me and trust me, because I didn't have to convince him much, I don't think. And he was already on the Republican, he had been the conspiracy factual person for years.
I was excited Trump won.
So, right,
so
when I came out, I'm like, and during this experience I left out, I met Trump. I sat with Trump. I learned who he really was. I learned what he really was. I sat with the Galactic Council. I met the Galactic Council. Remember, I was gone for a long time. I understood how the universe worked. I was shown exactly what's going on planet Earth. I was showing exactly what the energy is. I was showing the entire plan. I was showing all of it through time. Like if you've ever seen the movie Lucy,
I have.
The movie, horrible, horrible, horrible beginning. So I do not condone that. But the rest of the movie, is amazing. And I have done all of those experiences within that movie. And that is all real. That is all possible. All of it. And there's that point towards the end where she fast forwards all through time. She goes all the way back to the beginning. There's a lot in there, so sometimes it's a little.
Wow.
And for those who know energy and can channel, make sure you don't edit any of that part out. Because within this also holds the ability to see and feel that for those who have energy. You can see and feel from the very beginning until the very end-ish, because there is no end. It just, well, infinity sign.
Yeah.
Goes just like this, but you can see through it. And that's how you can see the beginning and the end. So that experience was had during that time too. And so when I came out, I was sharing with him as much as words will express. But also he has the ability easily to go in and communicate with me telepathically, visually, all of that such. You too will probably start noticing the more you attend, right? Like the more you're in it with us live like this, the more you will start to be able to get more than what's just being said.
Yeah. You kind of feel and hear at
Yeah.
the same time.
And maybe you had a session with me once, Megan.
Yeah.
Like that happens more when it's, focused, right? The more focused everybody is, the more powerful it's going to be. So it really doesn't, if there's a large group, this is kind of in general too, one-on-ones are powerful because people are very focused. You can expand it to 4. If all of us stayed focused like we are right now, that's making the channel that any of us are doing more powerful. You open the group to 20, it can be if all 20 people stay focused. But if you get someone who starts multitasking or doing something else, you start losing the energy then of that collective energy. Just to add that piece in there.
Yeah, I remember a meditation with you on one of your lives, and it was, this past 4 years, awakening has been just so profound for me of coming into who I am, remembering who I am. And that moment was a very different kind of meditation. I remember I told you, I feel like I left and came back, and I don't, that was a new experience for me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just, it's been escalating since then. And that really kicked off with your meditation that you took us through. And I was like, whoa.
And it's never been easier to be on a live for 3 hours. I'm like,
oh, I know.
It's amazing.
It really is.
3 hours, that's a short one.
I know.
I mean, but I could listen to you all day.
There was one you sent over, and we missed it. So I was listening to it. It's the one that literally changed my life. I'm not even exaggerating. It was the timeline one. So I was laying in bed. I was like, oh, I missed the live. Well, Megan went to sleep. Like, I'm going to listen to it. And it was like 11 o'clock. Like, I'm just going to listen to it a little bit. 5 hours later, seriously, 4 a.m. I was like, Megan.
I wake up, man, you got to learn about timeline.
Megan, it all makes sense now. Everything makes so much sense now. This is incredible. This is so beautiful. And it was like 4 a.m. and she's like, shut up. I'll listen to it tomorrow.
He's explaining timeline.
I don't know nothing about trying to explain your 5-hour timeline explanation. There's no way to do it in that short amount of time. And I'm like, my life has changed. I get everything so much more now.
Yeah.
And then you get why it takes so long. It's really, you can't do things a lot of justice when you summarize them.
Yeah.
Right? You did the 5-hour thing and then you got it. Because there's so many angles to everything. So many. Yeah. And then I guess is that it for that story? Or
so then you went from like not being all on the Obama thing, and then you did your trial, you came back and you were like, I get what's actually happening like in that instance. That's amazing.
Yeah. And so then I shifted to understanding who and what Trump is and was, and I don't know if we want to say that or not, but
I'm open to that.
I am too. It's you know, am grateful that so many people have woken up and are seeing the truth. And I'm grateful for people like yourselves and others that are now willing to speak upon it. And, one thing also I got to say that was really helpful that I got from you is I went through a phase where I could see so clearly what was going on. And I was like, I have to tell you, like, you guys, look what's happening. Look what's happening. And there was a time for that, and it helped a few people, but the time definitely passed at a certain point, and you pointed it out really eloquently. And then it like clicked for me again. I was like, at this point, it's not our, if I feel like, and I could be wrong here, but at this point, if you haven't opened your eyes, so you've really made up your mind about where timeline you're choosing. Yeah. So now, I mean, people are pretty much convinced of what they have chosen to believe. And how would you suggest going, if there was anyone now that, gets that fiery angle because the word Trump came up because of that immediate program, yeah. How would you go about that? Because you have incredible answers on your Facebook, man. Like the way you respond to people, we love it.
Oh, I've had people respond to my group. And I'm like, I need Gage to chime in on this and help me respond to this person.
How do you go about that? Like, really, what's the mental process you go through? And this is helpful because a lot of people listening have woken up and understand that. But of course, to each their own, there's definitely people that are on the other side.
So, and I may ask you to repeat the question because there's a few.
Yeah, sure. So when anyone that had like, they hear the word Trump and they get that immediate trigger, what do you feel is the best way to respond to that situation?
So we come to love and ego, right? If I'm going to respond to you from ego because Trump's my president, and I believe in him, and you are different because we've been taught to be so divisive, separated, right? From very beginning, school, who's number one, who's the best in the class, let's play sports, who's on the winning team, first, second, and third prize. Then, everyone's a winner, right? So this back and forth of this ego, this competition has been built up for a long time. The Democrats and the Republicans, they're both the same shit, right? They both have fallen underneath the Queen and the Anunnaki and their rule that is now over. So even within that illusion, I see that, right? Within that, I go to all of that really fast. And I feel into the person that I'm engaging with too. Mm-hmm. And I remove my ego. Mm-hmm. Just as I'm speaking to you right now, noticing the tone is different. It is. I pull the ego out. So it's not anything to do with Gage. I am connecting to the collective and I am going to a place of love. Because what is the true goal here is for each fractal of soul energy to remember who and what it is. Not to convince it of what Gage believes to be the way or the right way. It's about that soul. It's not about me. Not about proving that Trump is an archangel. It is not about proving that I am right and they are wrong. And actually, both sides have rights and both sides have wrongs. And then just because we share in mentioning he's an archangel, they also have their rights and wrongs. The story about your angels are nowhere near what they are.
Well, and he's also having a human experience, though.
In a way, yes. But his
maybe he's not.
His consciousness is extremely more advanced than any human on the planet. And so, I mean, is he really then having a human experience? He is here to be a revealer, and that is his job, and he is revelations. So it is a lot of doom and gloom around the great revealer, yes. And some may hate his wrath, but his wrath is your wrath. It is your energy. He is just revealing it and amplifying it. But he is a revealer.
Wow.
And so as you shift, that will shift. He will amplify whatever you're holding. And if you hold a collective vibration of love, well, guess what? That will be the vibration that will be revealed and amplified, and that is what your 3D world will look like. But right now, humanity, and we shared it with the conduit earlier, and we'll even use this word openly, even though we come from a love and a light, it is hell. You are living on hell on earth right now.
Mm-hmm.
You are purging the darkest and most sinister of evil through your planet right now, through you. It is why all of you, and we can say with 100% confidence and 100% of you, you have your old addictions, old evils, old fears. They are coming up, they are moving through you, and sometimes they paralyze you. And then the next day, it's like something snaps and you're all over it and you're fine and you're happy again. The walk-ins, the timeline mergings, right? The energies, but the demons are real, all of them. And they know the shift that is coming in your calendar of January, February of 2021. They're over. And so they are putting you through hell until that time.
Wow, that makes so much sense.
It does. Yep.
That
was a great answer.
That makes so much sense. There's just been some really...
You didn't get to the answer.
Right.
So engaging with the person.
You get it.
Right? That is triggered by the Trump derangement syndrome. Feeling coming out of that ego. Feeling in with love. And when you feel with love that there's a ripple back that hits you, that means walk away. They have already locked in and chosen their path. And you are not on the same path. And that is okay. There is nothing wrong or bad about that. We are at the great split.
You know, it's so funny because David now he'll use something that we've seen you respond to people. He'll be like, I'm sorry, so and so. I am not aligning with your
No, it was a beautiful... I did take it from you, Gage, because I can feel it now too. I never used to be able to, but now as I'm coming into my own, I can. You said something that I can now do. I couldn't back then, but a while back you would say something like, it was a response on a post, and it was, I can feel the vibration behind your words, and I don't align with that. But then you'd always end like lovingly, but you'd say something along the lines of, I can feel the vibration behind your words.
Yeah.
Like, even though it can be saying one thing, you can literally feel that it's totally a different intention there.
Yes. Yep. And that's very important. And you start to find what people write and what they're really saying.
Right.
Very different.
Wow.
And and a lot of times it takes a lot of energy. It takes more power. It takes more energy to be able to actually read that. That's how you also know authenticity. If the person's heart is connected to what they're writing, that is why when you read what I write, you feel it because it's the words and the feeling and the love, and there is no ego. And so it's pure and it is felt. And then sometimes there's my posts that have ego and you don't feel the same about them, right? Because that's in there.
That's amazing. I gotta ask you a bit of advice. We've, not to go into specifics or anything, but you're so right that stuff like can come up, and this is like, they're really challenging and testing people right now. And we've had an experience with someone that's a pretty great deceiver, basically. How do you, and demons, I'm becoming more aware of how real they are and how they can be in human form, which I never knew that before. But they can be in human form. Well, I know now. That,
yes, we are very well aware.
Very well aware now. And it's mind-boggling to such a degree how well they can be deceiving. And masters of it, and how
much harder to see them with face masks.
Yeah.
Oh, I even think that's true.
Yeah.
How do you go about knowing the difference between someone that is like, I mean, they can just be so deceiving. And Megan has, one of her gifts is discernment. And one of my gifts and
you need to start
and
listening
curses,
to me then.
I call it a gift and a curse, but it's I for some reason I always just see the good. I only see the good. I do, like with my employees, I only see the good, and it's burned me multiple times in my past to only see the good. But she has this powerful
I am very sensitive to
discernment.
energies. I feel energies right away. And I can know immediately if I like someone or not based upon their energy.
And for some reason, I just see and feel this good. And whenever I meet, even if it may not all be good, like, do you have any advice in that situation?
I do. I'm going to ask you to repeat parts of that too, because there's a lot that came in again. And so
I know I didn't plan on asking that, but I just felt called to, because it was a bit of a personal experience.
Everything's okay. Give me a moment to repeat the last part again.
Yes. What would be your advice on if you're if you being able to decipher if someone is demonic or of the light whenever they are so strongly being able to put up a facade of the light?
I got it. And about the couple, it's important. So I'm going to start talking about, if I get off on a channel, a tangent, you can help me remember out of the four of us.
You got it.
Soul groups, tribes, our twin flame relationships.
Yeah.
And then move into answering the question, these backgrounds.
Thank you.
Right? How do we recognize the energy? These pieces are important. First off, we come from source energy, flower life? Life. Yeah, flower life has petals, right? Your core soul group, whole source consciousness. You with me?
Yeah.
Yep. Consciousness is the whole thing. Each petal, that is your fractal of source energy. Each time you go back into source energy consciousness, reincarnation, life, death cycles, you merge back into like the puddle of water, we'll say that you are, and you merge within that piece of the flower of life, your core soul group. So then each time you incarnate within an experience of something like Earth, you take those fractal pieces of yourself to become that incarnation of energy. That is your tribe, your soul tribe. And then you have a core soul tribe, and then you have within that flower life, then all the tribes that are next to you. And so those would be like extended soul groups. And these would be the people that you feel extremely attracted to, right? Attracted to in your sexual ways, we'll say, like relationships, but also your attractions. And there's a lot for the humans to evolve in understanding in that, but also then your attractions to people you like to be around or not. So understanding this piece of energy coming into the planet, this is why you have your attractions are like your twin flames. You balance each other. The two of you balance each other. You each have your strengths. You're meant to work together. Yes. Similar strengths you talked about is similar with us, right? There are times that he is the better discerner, because I also focus a lot on seeing the light, and I look and see how to fix things, what's broken, and how do we bring light to it so the light can flow through the body. And I see the circuitry, which is the body, mind, and soul, right? When one can step out into the nothing and everything, you can see the source code of what puts everything together. And so that is what I see when I look at energy. And that is what I see first. I have to pay a lot of attention to see like your shirt, your clothes, the actual features of your face or your hair. That takes a lot of effort to see those pieces. And so I don't keep digressing too much, right? You understand you have your piece of soul energy, you're part of a group, right? That group comes here and you're always seeking, the group is always seeking to be together. As our consciousness is evolving, this is why we're seeing in a lot of those who are becoming conscious, they're seeking out certain particular people to match up with. These are their soul groups, their tribes, and we'll find when they start to meet, those are the pieces becoming a whole, like a puzzle. And this will be when humanity will start building things like the pyramids. This will be when one core soul group can get together. Skies are clear, no more fires, they're out, perfect balance and temperatures. That fast. That is how powerful humans are. That is why humans have been separated. That is why humans have been forced to think they need to, you must accept every culture on your planet and then be forced to all live together. That is not the purpose. And you will find this has been, if you've already noticed, humans are wanting to migrate around their own kind now and stop this constant forceful integration of people. They're here for different classes, different reasons, different interests. And they've been trying to make them all conform into the same standardized tests and being professional. And so another digression, but
I love it. Love it.
But it's building to understanding around people who are demonic, a clone, which that's a whole series of novels in its own. Possessed, right? Permissioned demon or not. There is so much in here, right? And even within a demon, whatever we say about a demon is like calling a human the same thing. Well, there's many different types of humans. There are many different types of demons. Not all demons are evil.
One we dealt with was.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you can feel, and I'll say in the feeling though of a demon that isn't evil would be more angelic. Angels and demons are not different. They are the same. Right? So you have light and dark, but there is not, you've been dark before. You have done dark things. All humans have. It doesn't mean you are a demon, but you have done demonic things. Where do you think these demons come from? They've come, and everything here is manifested from humanity. Everything. 100% of it. The Anunnaki, the Archons, all of it was brought here by humanity. During Atlantis, but you were all present during Atlantis. You were all decision makers during Atlantis. Even those listening to your podcast, they would not be attracted to you or the information to you unless they were part of the reality from which you have created. So when you are interacting with another piece of energy, is about being present within your energy. And that same description of Trump derangement syndrome, when you send out the energy, if it absorbs into the energy you are sending out, that energy is open and willing to your energy, which is you are sending out love. If the energy bounces back, well, you know the energy is not interested in it, which means it is demonic. It means it is possessed, or it means that it is a clone. And that could be even your own parents. They may already be gone. Remember, we have mentioned the majority of the humans on your planet will leave or have left already. So what is in them? Though there's many who have passed a year or two ago, and there's something in that body. But it has access to the brain, which has the memories. So it can portray itself memory-wise and word-wise that it exists, but you will start to notice you don't feel the connection anymore to that person. And it could be your own children. It could be a brother or a sister. There is no exemption here. Essentially, we're saying the zombie apocalypse that your movies have portrayed are real. They're just not, the flesh isn't falling off their face yet.
Wow.
And there is, and this does tie back to humanity's underlying energy, right? Those who continue to eat dying flesh of animals. So dying flesh of humans are walking around with entities in them. As humanity continues to change its way, which now it will be forced to, right? The days of your time to choose to do these things is over because the energies have caught up and met. We feel you know what we are discussing because this process is easier for you. And you notice when you have your moments of going back to old habits with meat or alcohol or such like that, and we can feel the vibrations present, you'll know you'll have experiences that will pull you back and not in those vibrational experiences that you want to be in. The more the vessel is clean, the more you are able to feel what we're discussing in that vibration of moving towards you or coming back at you. We will share at this time on the planet, which is September 2020, that the majority of what you think are humans walking around are not.
Wow. That's amazing. Thank you. That was great.
Yeah.
That's amazing. When it comes to the channeling, how
It's
does
fascinating.
that is fascinating.
Yes.
When did it start, and what is it? Could you? I know it's probably hard to because it's automatic. Can you describe what it is
Or like,
when
what
it
was the
happens?
first time? Like, were you like, what's going on? Like, I mean,
understand your question. So even right now, it is if in my mind it's like a council sitting at a round table, and there is multiple of us answering. So there are Pleiadians, Octurians, galactic councils, all of our higher selves are present. And that's how I could know the rest of your question. Without you further going, you are present. And it's how I could feel your bodies and what was just being said. There are multiple beings talking right now, including the conduit, myself, Gage. I am present within the conversation, the channel here currently. I'm not always. You've been enough lives to tell sometimes I myself will completely step aside. More and more, this has been a shift in the current energies where I am present and sitting here with the council that is currently channeling and communicating, which is how I'm able to refer to myself as a conduit at the same time as refer to myself as I. When channel started, it has always been present, but I didn't fully understand what it was. And I was in a belief system that called it mediumship. And I had grown up, more in that, what we would maybe call more the new age, historically, 80s, 90s, traditional spiritual movement, going to medium, psychics, crystal stores, bookstores, that type of stuff. And understood to be what I was doing was a mediumship and communicating with spirit on the other side, and they were delivering the messages. I was really communicating with my higher self, and it was portraying it in that way for the best of my consciousness to understand what was going on at the time and be able to have the authentic connection of channel. I also went through periods of time of turning it off because I couldn't handle it. Couldn't handle knowing that, this person was a murderer, or this person was a rapist, or this person, was molesting their 5-year-old kid at home. Because when you step out of ego and you don't judge humans, you can read their minds, you can be completely and know everything about them when you see the source code. And there's a lot in there that, well, I'll just say there's a lot in there. And so I feel back, and this actually brings us back to when we were talking about the 2016 and the shift. So actually perfect alignment back to that intro that we had, is that shortly after that shift in 2016 that we described with you, gets confusing between I and conduit now. I remember the first time the profound channel happened, I was in the shower, which we had a really awesome shower at our old apartment in Redondo Beach that was on the beach, but it also had this just completely closed in, like you could just make it like a steam room shower. There was about a gap this much you had above the door, and the rest of the tile was it. It was such a neat spot, and you could like hum, do your humming in there, and it would reflect off of all the walls. If claustrophobic, it could be a little scary because it was that tight. But in there, I was able to do that, and that really connected me the first time. I remember it was Bob, and Bob had I don't even know if I could find it, a very thick Indian, like Indian, not Native American.
Yep.
Accent. And so that is how I channeled in the beginning, with this very thick Indian accent. I understand now it's about vibration and being able, those who their voice changes when they talk, it's about being able to match the vibration, and the physical body isn't able to match the vibration, which is why there's a distortion that then occurs. Even if you find like a channeler moving, right? Their body's having a difficult time holding the vibration. So the body starts to move to try and get in line with the vibration and eventually stabilize the body. This was, when it first happened like this, it became a learning period. So I noticed the more I tried to control it, the more you try to control it, or if you get excited right? You had mentioned in the beginning, Megan, how you were excited, and noticing that vibration. It's a disruptor. It removes you from flow. It removes you from the now. It is anxiety. You were taught that was something good.
Yeah.
The true vibration you're looking for is joy. Notice when you say joy and you feel it in your body, it feels soothing. Versus feel excitement. And then do you feel how tired you are after you were excited?
Yeah.
Can you feel that in your body now? We're amplifying it for you.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right? So that would be an example of noticing that energy. So that energy excitement came in for me during that experience, which cut the channel. Channel's over. Done. Right? Out. That's a disruptor. So then the next, I think very few days later, I had a business trip to San Francisco. And this particular time, and this would have been January, because it was every January there's a kickoff. And San Francisco is very popular during that time, so there's a food and wine festival. And so I had to stay at the airport. I had to stay at a hotel all the way by the airport, which is very unusual. But it worked out very well because this hotel, it had this really awesome gym and nobody went to it. And, yes. And so the story is quite a treat. So I'm the only one in the gym. And I'm listening to, I was quite into this, this experience. I was on YouTube and I'm listening to, Bashar and Adronis, and I'm just, getting into the 3D discovery of like channelers and connecting to extraterrestrials and who were they all. And because I wanted to know what was in the 3D knowledge of this, because it's kind of weird. I went and really experienced it, but how does that translate when there aren't words in astral. So how do I describe this? So I was really going out to kind of learn, how do people talk about this? How do they describe these things? And in so doing, the Palladians would just put things on my YouTube. And the autoplay would just play through things. And then I would notice I would go back to try and like add it to a playlist or save it, and it'd be gone. I could never find it. And so I don't even remember now, and I'm not even getting clarity if this came through a YouTube or a channel, but you're getting a lot of clarity of something right now. His whole arm's all goosebumpy, which that's something is clear, authentic, aligned when you get
Yeah.
Yep.
And the plays came through and spoke as if we were speaking like this, as if they were in the room, but I could not see them with my lenses, but I could see them in my brain and mind. And to understand, right, the eyes do not see, the brain is the only thing that sees. And these are lenses, like lenses on your camera. And it is that of what the brain perceives, just like if you take a photo and you're looking at the photo, I could show you a photo, then we could take it away, and all four of us may describe something different of the photo.
Wow.
But everything's there, it's just what did you perceive? And so I was able to see them, but not with the lenses. And these were the Palladians, and they came through and they had said, do you give us permission to fully take control of your body? And then they also downloaded to help me understand, right, what that meant, and that they were doing this in my highest purpose, because that was always a question I had learned right away to ask. And channels, do you serve my highest purpose? The only answer is yes. If they try to weasel, darkness is a very great little weasel. They make it sound like a yes.
Yeah.
The light's only answer will immediately be yes. No. Well, I'm going to help you with this, so you could conclude a yes. No, that's a lot of answer. So no.
Right.
Or you decide to make your deal. We're not telling you you make deals, and they call it deals with the devil. And sometimes it can work out just fine, but that's your choice. And so I gave them that permission. I was on the elliptical. And when they took over my body, that elliptical was going max capacity. I had felt, because at that point I was out of my body. I was astral projected out of my body. Like if you ever seen Doctor Strange, where you see the whole body come out.
Yep.
I was like that far out. And they were in, but they were showing me, they're like, your body could do this easily. Then I came in my body and they're like, here, you maintain it, we'll help. And they're like, here, we're gonna let go and show you what you could do in a perfect human form. And they let go and my body continued going. There was no sweat. I could have talked to you this calmly while moving so fast. I thought that elliptical was gonna break and go through the wall. That is, it was like a cartoon. You probably couldn't even see my legs. It was fast. It was literally out of the world, out of this world. I had a moment of sheer panic came in me because it was just so it's just something you never thought was a reality. It was very Twilight Zone or Quantum Leap or just whoa. And so in that panic, everything ended instantly. I feel just like that, like planes were out of the room, everything was out, gone, boom, I was back on the elliptical and immediately down in a way that I wouldn't be hurt. So kind of like, I think I just did it. It was like a
wow.
Like the normal move on the machine. But again, noticing my pain, right? Like, so both times the interrupter was me, my excitement in the shower and my sheer panic of what was going on. Because it was the first time I had had such a strong, conscious experience. Now, being able to look through my life and all through time, I can see these things have been happening many times. I just didn't have the consciousness to understand that or what was going on. That really took things, I feel, from there quite profoundly, so much deeper into our journey, right? Because he was very much becoming entwined in this. He started having his experiences. And I feel like now we're at a point where like sometimes he's first, sometimes I'm first. But at this point, I feel like I was in this direction leading the way. He was bringing to the table a lot of helping with the knowledge of the 3D world.
Did you know the queen is reptilian?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh yeah, baby.
Yeah.
He's like, you're just seeing that like the sky is blue. I'm like,
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Right. So yeah, so he like knew this stuff and it helped like really integrate it and get more details. And he'd be like, oh yeah, you go look here and look the eye vault, or there's these files over here, or oh yeah, me and my brother were playing with this stuff when we were kids.
There was no WikiLeaks.
He knew all the 9/11 stuff, details.
That's awesome.
Like it's so common knowledge, but back then it wasn't. And
Right.
Of a lot of people, like him.
God, to have a queue would have been amazing back then.
Yeah.
Oh man.
This process really deepened that ability to channel. And then it also deepened in this process that they were showing me at the hotel in San Francisco airport was that if anyone wants to ever go see the gym, it's the Westin by the San
Check
Francisco
it out.
airport.
Elliptical number 3.
Oh, that's the one.
But I know maybe someday in the future, it's like, wow, we're so busy and everybody's always so interested in the gym. And it doesn't work that way. Just going to that spot necessarily won't give people some, just like Jesus said, right? The kingdom of heaven's under a rock. It's in every grain of sand. You don't have to be in a particular spot to have those experiences. This process led us to the breatharian process. So after a shower, in that same shower I told you about, it kind of started to become my practice. I would go in the shower, or he would do the same thing. And it kind of became, it's like our zone. It was like our altar when we would go in there to just have our experiences. And so I had come out and I made it as far as our shower to our bedroom, which was not far at all, maybe 10 feet.
Yeah.
And my body just sat on its own. It was probably the first time where it's like I had no control of my body.
Wow.
I sat down, opened my laptop, YouTube video came up of Ray Mayor and the breatharian process.
Wow.
Wow.
Never had no idea who Ray Mayor was, had no idea what a breatharian was. Although I find out afterwards, Casey tells me, love. He like that's like, you have been channeling for a year and telling me we don't need to eat food. I keep thinking, food is not, there's something wrong with food. We're not supposed to be eating food. We don't have to eat food. But at this time, the channels were I didn't remember, like the channels, it's an expanded consciousness to get into remembering your channels. It kind of, when you're starting and you're a newbie, you may not remember it a lot. If you look back with like Edgar Casey, his wife had to write down everything. And he only channeled when he slept, right? So it evolves as you evolve in your consciousness and it gets easier. But at this point, at that time, I wasn't able to remember most of what I channeled. Like, I would have to record it or he would tell me. And so that's also why I'm like, oh, really? And is that a fair assessment of that? Because I want to be careful when I say I'd never heard of breatharian, because people are like, oh, actually.
I mean, just this thought of not having food was just too much for me to handle. And this was long before his YouTube experience. He was talking about doing these extended fasts, kind of what some people refer to as like a vision quest. And he's like, yeah, you go in the forest and you don't have any food, you don't have any water. And, and I was just like, if I don't have any food, I'm going to evaporate. Like 120 pounds, like there's nothing there. There's no reserves. I didn't know how it worked. But yes, I remember feeling quite scared that he had brought this up many times. But at the time when we saw the breatharian,
yeah, so by that time,
we were in.
Yeah, I saw it and I just felt it was one of those clicks of just, this is what you're doing. And we'd kind of been on this ride. Both of our lives completely changed. And it just had this momentum. Once we came together, it was like our life went in fast forward, but in a balanced, like, good way. We've been having a very good time and loving our experience. It's just, wow, looking at the momentum of the change. Wow. And so this was one of that. It just, we were in the flow. I think I was more in the flow at first. Casey was holding on the back end, like, okay.
Why not?
And it was even a trip-wise. So the first time I was like, normally be like, okay, do you want to do this? Should we think about doing this together? And I was like, I'm going to do this. I want you to come very much. But if you don't, I'm still going to do it. And that was rare. I feel like to this day, we don't even have anything like that. We're always like to like do our things together. And so I feel like he felt like, wow, okay, this is
serious. He wants to do this. He's doing this.
Yeah, we don't talk like this. This isn't normal. So this is a big and so he, and if I'm off, jump in. I feel like he came along like in his beginning in support of me, and that he was just going to have an experience. And he didn't know what it was, but he wasn't. He's like, I'll kind of feel out this breatharian thing. But hey, it's Hawaii. This place looks great. We can go to the beach, and I'll get I'll detox. I'll do the program. Like I'll just do it's just 10 days. And who knows, maybe, I can be supportive. Like that was pretty much your kind of, yeah. In the beginning, I feel as it got closer to us actually going, because it was like a month between us deciding to go and it happening. I feel like by the time it was closer, you were more into it.
Yeah.
And we had done some prepping. I had never done a detox in my life. And so I decided, before that breatharian process, and I do want to say this when I share about my breatharian process, is that my process was very unique, and that I have not met another, or other breatharian initiates have not met another who has had a process like mine. So I don't want to set false expectations that has happened from people who have gone through initiations with us. When I share my experience, they become quite disappointed if their experience is not like mine, because they have an expectation of that. Part of the authentic breatharian process is to learn to not have to learn about your true self. And so that's part of the journey. But I just want to say that little disclaimer as I move forward in this, so that it isn't perceived that everybody has this experience. And so now I forgot where I was at in the story of.
Well, we were both getting on board.
Yeah.
And so I feel like at the point in the story, we're like now going to Hawaii.
Right. So in the Hawaii process, I don't remember where I was going with that. So.
Well, and then you were obviously going to talk about your breatharian process because you said you wanted to
All right, we're talking about
qualify.
channeling. Right. I always need the question back so I can stay on.
Yeah.
I'm still going with the channeling, how that gets deeper and changes over time. That'll help me with what radio station we're on, I'll say. And so that breatharian process, moving into that, that really took another profound shift and change. We both embodied that, one, it was possible and true, even though we'd received it in channel. To meet Ray, to meet Luca, to meet the group that we had was also a divine collection of really advanced, conscious humans that came together within this particular group. I also want to be careful if this is in the recording. I am not endorsing or not endorsing any of the names that I'm talking about.
Totally.
Because each people that may be teaching are at different places in their consciousness on their journey, and some have gone back and forth of where they're at or what energies they're serving.
Got it.
And so that's just always with anyone that I talk about. I just want to have that out there too. Sometimes people think, oh, well, Gage or Casey did their experience with so-and-so. And so that person is got the seal of authenticity 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not necessarily so. Is that a good explanation of that? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so moving through that breatharian process, made connections with, kind of we'll tell you about when we're talking about a tribe, a lot of pieces that fit together very well. My experience was amazing and profound, and I started seeing sacred geometry. That's what started to bring into the temple for us. I had so much energy moving through my body. I was burning the grass with my feet, and spots that I was walking on, I
shocked somebody.
I electrocuted a girl in our class because I was that kind of energy. I wasn't, I've been able to move energy, but then it became physical and shot someone, and well, she wouldn't be my partner anymore. She doesn't hate me. She's still friendly. She's been on a couple of the lives, but she won't let me touch her even to this day.
There you go.
So that'll also be somebody going through that. Like people have, it's like their powers spark, like a transformer blowing up in electricity, because you are moving from such a profound. It's like you've been operating at 10% of your capacity, and now you're operating at 90% of your capacity, but the wiring doesn't know how to handle that. So you spark.
Wow.
And that's an example of a spark, right? It was like so much power came through, but there wasn't an ability to confine it or contain it in a way to keep it safe. And so it became unsafe and it hurt someone. She's fine, right? Like,
That's good.
and we even had an experience too, where because of our closeness, you learning to channel and being a breatharian, it does become significantly easier. Everything that you have in your body is a distraction. Everything you bring in your body is a distraction, and it's a much lower vibrational experience than what you can pull in from your source consciousness. We are perfect. Our imperfection comes because we put imperfect things in us, and it lowers our vibration. Because we've been doing it for so long that you can't, for some, you got to gradually move through it because it could be too big of a change and dangerous. Depends on how toxic the body is and how, what the process is going to be to get there, which it's why this process is a very individual process. And it was some of the caution we were bringing to some of these bigger groups and gatherings of this initiation. It's a very advanced process. That's a great way to sum it up. And it can be very, very dangerous if it isn't administered carefully, which means there needs to be enough people to observe people during the process. Can't have 1 on 20, 1 on 50, 1 on 100, just not safe. This process really unlocked me and freed me from all the confines that I felt from society, the weight on my shoulders of, well, if I don't have money, how am I going to eat? I'm going to starve to death. Well, what if I don't agree to their system? Everything that goes through you and the sheer fear that comes over you if you were going to lose your bank account, everything was zero tomorrow. You lost your house. You have no money. Every family member you know died. You're alone in the world. Because that's where everyone's going to go to in their fear of anything that's going on in your life. Why do you do the things you don't want to do? Because you need to make the money. You got to pay your bills. That's what a good citizen does. Pay your taxes. So even if you own your land, you still got to pay the taxes. So you are constantly imprisoned to the system. But when you go through the clarity of, and this is part of everyone's awakening process, is to unlock from the system. But going through a breatharian process really helps you to remove all of the distractions so you can see everything authentically. A true breatharian would have to be authentic to be a true breatharian, because the pain would be so intense to lie or to be inauthentic, because there's no shit in the body, literally, like, get it out, right? Like, there's no shit in your body to absorb the energy of distraction, disease, dis-ease, dis-ease of vibration in the body. That's why we know a breatharian would never get sick. It's impossible. There's no disease. There's no vibration to match it. And so it starts to bring to light. I don't know if you can see my hands on the table, but I'm showing a lot of things coming forth to be seen. So this process brought to light for both of us, and differently, right? So our stories are very different, like complete polar opposites different. We would say mine was blissful and his was hell, might be a good description. And since he's laughing, I'll laugh. But, and it depends on where that person's at for that experience. My experience was my experience because I had worked through my more, what we call like lower vibrational experiences. Part of my disease and sicknesses forced me to do that. My lack of love for self. I loved myself, right? I felt worthy, and he was still working through programming and manipulations from friends and family of unworthiness, and I think that's your core, right? Unworthiness. And
yes,
like there's another word that usually comes to mind that's not coming up.
Just,
so
the overall pains of being a nice guy.
Right. Casey was always the guy to lighten everything up and smile.
Yep.
All while just, that's his responsibility. All that coming to the table for him.
Yeah.
And then he was also, upset that which side of this experience would anyone want to be on? The one who's like, wow, I'm seeing the universe and there's geometry everywhere and I can see the source code. So that started happening from the breatharian process, right? That was the first time I started seeing the source code.
Yeah.
And then the circuitry stuff started coming after that. I mean, everything just poured in of just sheer seeing the core of anything I look at. Like that just solidified. And there's my description of things is when someone goes through an initiation, that's your commitment to the breatharian process and letting your bodies, mental, physical, and spiritual, know that you are flipping the switch. And you're telling the universe that I no longer take my energy from food. I take it from source, and that is my commitment going forward, and that's the initiation. But then from there, you can flip the switch, but people may or may not still do it or such. But at least the switch has been flipped, and an initiate always gets that. They don't need to be in the space again of a breatharian to reset themselves. An initiate does need to be in the space of a current breatharian to get the vibrational energy, like the vibe, to be able to initiate. And any initiate can initiate another. Vibrationally, maybe not educationally, but vibrationally. Then, right, so then for myself, about 6 weeks later, I have what I would call like the click. And the click is when it's like the switch becomes permanent in a way. And you just get it. Everything, you just get it. You are no longer in pain or suffering of not knowing or understanding why, right? There's no more why. Anything you want to know or see, you can see, and you can see all the way down to the loving answer of it immediately. Right? Why'd that person lose their home and burn down and their child died, right? Oh, that is so heartfelt and suffering, and so many will get locked and trapped in the suffering. But if you can go to the place of love, you will see immediately all the energy that did that and all the beauty in it. But you can't see it because of your judgment of what you've been programmed to go to. And you see through all that. You're no longer trapped within the matrix. You literally see the matrix around people. You can see the green, just like in the movie The Matrix. It's a green color, a green, blackish, dark color that surrounds people. And you can see them in the matrix. And it's like there's a screen right in front, and this is how they're seeing the world, but yet the world isn't like this.
Wow.
And so that's the level that you can see when you click. There is the guy is just recently passed away. What's the DVD name? Light.
In the beginning,
there was light. And I know there's an Indian gentleman in there that was much more of a breatharian than even we are.
It was no food, no water.
Yeah, no food, no
intake,
water.
Nothing.
For many, many years. And he's in this
Wow.
He did just this year transition off the planet. And there aren't any more known, I'll say, breatharians that have clicked within a 6-week period on the planet. And that's about how long? Wait, 6 weeks? Yeah. 6
I
weeks.
feel like it was before 6 weeks, but yeah, it was somewhere in there.
Yeah, 6 weeks it exists. So also just to set that authentic, because I shared that before, my 6 weeks, and then other people have gone through the process thinking it's going to happen in 6 weeks. And then two, the one person in the DVD, you watch that and it seems like, oh, okay, right, Gage is talking about this guy's, I'm going to be like them in 6 weeks. And it's also to understand the history, right? All that clearing in the years of work and not having, the abilities were there going into the process. So it is all about where you're at coming into the process as well. That has a huge impact. And but anyone can click, and and I find usually it's around anywhere from 6 months to 18 months, and some it's 5 years, 10 years, right? Because you have to keep working through whatever that stuff is there to have that experience where you just see, I guess I'll call it like the source code.
And you can get like a soft click. I feel like I had kind of a soft click at the beginning. It was like, you got it, but I was still hungry. I still had things that were wanting to be fed through the process.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, then I feel like it took me a few years to have my click. I
The
did.
first time I had it here.
Yep, I did
Right.
have it after we moved here. Yep, and it did help to be out of the city. That was a big
Yeah.
one for me. I had trouble in the city differentiating what's mine and what's not.
Mm.
So
And you were
that
still
does help.
going I've worked from home since 2012. And then I would travel a lot, like go to hotels, but I was still in my own space, like in the hotels and that such. But then my travel when Casey and I started building our relationship, I started diminishing my travel quite a bit. I forgot where I was going with that too.
I know. I just wanted to add a little bit about the click after you had mentioned your click. I just wanted to add.
I know. I was adding on your piece.
Everything I was working through.
Yeah. In the city. Oh, I was explaining. So you were going to work. That's what I wanted.
Oh,
like
right,
he
right,
was
right.
going.
I was
He was
still going
working at
into
a business, and he worked on this private. This very wealthy person had his own private collection of cars, but he kept it in a warehouse that was attached to his company. And so all the employees and their stresses, and let's say the guy, he's another interesting character, but didn't necessarily treat, employees as employees. They're a cost center and right, kind of this mentality. So he was also around that energy, whereas I was at home. And our view was all ocean from every window. Our apartment was like long and narrow, so every window faced the ocean. So every room in our apartment, and then luckily even the bathrooms, you could sit on the toilet and have the doors open and see out the window in the back and across from you. And so everything was ocean view.
Wow.
And I'd already gotten to a point of being around people was becoming challenging as I was evolving just the sheer amount. So I would essentially walk Zachy, and having the dogs and the animals is really helpful because people will want to focus on Zachy and pet Zachy, and I can just stay out of their
Nice.
and so that was great. And that's pretty much how I managed it. But I remember it became extremely difficult for me to even walk on the beach, right? Which would just seem, most people be like, wow, that's great. And it's like, yeah, not around the amount of, right? This is also Los Angeles. And,
Yeah.
it's busy.
Right.
And so the more around, the energies will shift, right? So we ought to be careful of today's date when we say this still, September 2020. Being around other people going through a process like that is going to greatly negatively impact the process and lead to a much more painful experience versus if someone's, like when Casey and I moved here, he was now in the woods. We have 3 acres of land. Our property is sealed in its own realm.
fresh air.
Fresh air, boom, his experience happened. Like it was like, okay, now we're in a good place. Let's do it.
Right. And I feel like people that might have a history of traumatic experiences that they've stored in their body, they need an environment like that to fully relax into it and integrate it. Yeah.
So I feel like that got us through, are we frozen? We're going to wait, David and Megan, in case.
Put a little love into the connection here. Boy, that must have been good what we were sharing. Oh, we're the hosts now. Oh my God. Oh, it's still cloud recording.
I sent them a message. Maybe I'll just go ahead and I want to be careful. I don't stop this because I don't want to message.
Maybe just pause it.
Pause. Okay.
No.
Okay, we had a little storm mix up, a little thunderstorm knocked us out here in Austin, but we're back on track. So thanks for your patience over there, guys.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
So we were talking about the breatharian process, it clicking. I don't know when you guys were like in the story, and then all of a sudden you didn't move for a while. I'm like,
they're really in it.
It cut us off when we were talking about how little of the matrix we needed to interact with after being initiated into the breatharian process, or after kind of adopting that way of life.
Wow.
Right?
mm-hmm. Yeah. And so even what I'm doing right now is I'm sending my own energy through the wires in connection to stabilize it, so nothing outside the connection between the two of us can hear what we're talking about, so that it can't interfere with the energies. Because even magnitude, so even taking the storm, right? Noticing, you may think, oh, well, it was a storm, it wasn't connected. But knowing that everything is connected. So what we were talking about even on your recording, right, can very much be connected to the storm where you're located. It can very much be connected to even right now. When you see me moving, I'm countering things that are trying to come in and pull out the internet connection.
Wow.
And you'll even go back and look at your videos if it shows both screens. Let's see as it's coming through now. And then
The portal's popping up.
right. There we go. That should keep us pretty good.
That's amazing.
You guys are fascinating.
And so just the stuff like that, someone may look at that and think, well, I don't see anything going on. It's bullshit, right? Wow. And that's where it's about those connections to the inner depths, to be able to feel and to be able to see here, because you won't see it here.
Right.
In this now. That might change post January, February 2021. The system, right, depending upon how far we want to take this, right? Technology and existence is not that far apart at all. It is the same thing. What is intelligence? What is artificial and real? Everything is energy.
Yeah.
And so the matrix, right? A simulation over another simulation. People in their little boxes that we were describing earlier. Take down the simulation and one can see. A breath there, like that movement in that direction towards removing the distractions, towards putting in everything we put in, the input is of the matrix. And that creates, that supports more of that matrix. The less of that input, a breatharian takes out the input, fully embodies no input. That is when that click occurs at a time period after the initiation. I am no longer attached to anything within the matrix. But now that I'm no longer attached to anything within the matrix, go play in the matrix. Now all the rules change. You want to have caffeine? Have it. But no, you know how to alchemize it. You know how to work with the vibration. You know what you're doing. You want to have a marijuana cannabis ceremony? Have it. We went from drinking and smoking marijuana to nothing.
Eating, drinking.
we didn't have marijuana for 2 years. I think around 2 years.
Yeah,
give or take some time. But then after this process, I was like, well, now that you know how to work with the energy, now that you know how to alchemize and make anything you bring into your vessel, you can alchemize the energy of it. So do whatever you want. So that is also
I do this all the time now because of you, because I still partake in my marijuana, but I transmute it. I do exactly what you've taught me to do, like every single time.
Yes. And as easy as that can be for anyone listening, it's not difficult at all. Anyone can do it, right? The more powerful it is will be about, and this might be the more difficult part, of people authentically connecting, right? Being loving, right? You feel love in your heart, peace in your mind, and abundance and flow. And you really embody that. And then you talk to your marijuana ceremony and call it a ceremony, right? We say, do you want to have a marijuana ceremony? Right? Do you want to have a water ceremony? Do you want to have a food ceremony tonight? We can get better with the food ceremony part. It's like, what are we? Right? And you do eat, right? So a breatharian doesn't not have to eat. It's like the same thing of like, just because you don't always have to walk, and you can walk and you have a car, sometimes you do walk. You don't always drive your car. And it's the same thing as a breatharian. We get our life force and source from consciousness. We eat for pleasure. So we eat what we want. And so, like, I love pasta, right? But if someone was not a breatharian, would I say, like, if you ask me, is pasta good for you? I'd say no. Do you know how to alchemize the energy of that wheat and gluten and mucus in your body? Do you know how to move it through your body? Do you understand the work you have to do to eat pasta? Then have pasta. But if you don't eat it. It's dangerous, right? Eat fruit and vegetables until you know how to eat the other stuff, because they come at a price, and you have to do the work in order to have those things. The clarity of what that work is very easy in a vessel that is not dependent and attached to what it's bringing in. It is just an experience. Does this make sense?
Wow, makes so much sense.
It does. Big time.
Well, that's such a...
We're gonna go have some pasta.
Yeah. Go through some breath.
Pasta in years.
And you guys offer the breath. You guys do breatharian training in Mount Shasta, right?
Yes. After the January-February mark, right now we are not accepting.
Right.
And we advise the same for everyone else to be in their own space.
Yeah.
And but after that, yes, we do initiations, we do resets. Essentially, anyone who is on their authentic path and they are in an open and willing place, and they are ready to move into a more authenticity for themselves, right? I don't want to call it a higher consciousness, because in truly understanding expanded consciousness, it is both higher and lower, both. It is not just one direction. Hierarchy, it's not about who's better. There is no better. It's an expansive. But those who are authentic to their journey, when it aligns, right, would be invited to come and be able to come here and participate in wherever they're at in their journey. If it's a breatharian initiation, if it's a reset, if it's a detox, if it's doesn't really have to do with the food portion. You're already clean and vegan, but you want to come and have help with the body work or expansion in your consciousness, deepening your channeling abilities. I feel like it's like anywhere where someone's at in their journey, helping and assisting and holding space to help them move into that next piece. And so with that, every experience is different and unique. We channel in and feel and look at that person that's coming here, and that path unfolds based on where they're at in their life. So, you know, the experience with us is very much, you know, more one-on-one or, you know, couples, right? Because you're already sharing in your experience. And so we feel too like the max of our experience would be like a group of 4 to 6 if there was more of a group thing. And that would be people that already know each other. Know like, oh, hi, my name is Sally and this is Joe and we're meeting for the first time. Right? Not really the space that we're in for assisting others. We're really for those who want to be the Jedi Knights, the wizards, the embodiment of the ascended masters that they are. And when I say ascended masters, every soul here is an ascended master. There is not one that is better than another. There can be misconceptions of saying that, but that the ones that truly want to embody that type of energy and experience here, that is what we harmonize with and what we offer. I don't even want to like the word offer, what we align with and for others in their path and their journey.
That's awesome, man. That is,
Yes.
that's really cool.
I know. We hope to be there.
Yes, be in the chat.
I don't know if it's the breatharian route. It's calling me, but I'm kind of like a little bit.
And I'm an extremist. That sounds fantastic to me. I'm like, I'm in. I want to try this. And she's always
but
like,
if he does it, then I'm just going to be like, okay, I'll do it. So we'll probably do it.
I'll be there with you. I'll help you.
And the visits here don't like have to be that. We have also what we call an immersion, which is where, you know, it doesn't have to be the breatharian initiation. It can will be whatever the process is, right? It sitting and channeling and going through like this, working through timelines that are coming in, working through whatever sadness, depression, trauma, anxiety, programming that's still there, that is hindering the experience. Being able to deepen the connection with nature. That's part of what this land does too, is it's easier to communicate with trees and water and animals and insects. And I mean, it's just see portals and other realms and go to other realms, and it just goes on and on from there. And that stuff is
that's awesome.
Much more of an energy here. And so that's also part of the experience.
That is great to know. I've got to ask you 2 quick questions.
Yeah,
I'm
they don't
totally
have to,
curious about
we're good on time on our side.
Awesome. When do you think there's going to be disclosures?
You're gonna have to narrow that down. Like, what disclosures?
Arrests and disclosures. We'll go on the Q route.
That stuff, you know, now between January, February, and the ability to predict or foresee the timing for anything is impossible.
Okay.
And regardless of the level that consciousness is at. And the reason why is because the planet itself is in its dark night of the soul. That's why if you look back on any channelers who have, we'll say, been authentically channeling, giving timelines like so concrete like January, February, is extremely rare.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll find that you're finding consistently that many channelers on the planet are giving that same range, which is also rare to have your authentic channelers giving dates and then giving dates that are quite fine. In our viewpoint, it seems finite. It may not in yours to give a 60-day time window, but that is a very tight time window to give with guarantee of when a shift is going to occur, and a shift that is the biggest shift that humanity has ever felt. And when we say that, you know, we don't want to set 3D false expectations, we'll say.
Mm-hmm.
You know, your skies are not going to be filled with spaceships, and it's not like Independence Day or anything like that. And the shift will be internal, and that will be the impact that the external world will have. Q is a vibrational force within the constructs of the human experience that is here to assist humanity to come to balance. But that energy of Q itself is not balanced. And that is also something to be mindful of at the consciousness for which you are at, is that it serves to bring about balance, but it is not balance itself. And is that understood?
It is.
Okay. And there is not all 3D energy in Q. It is many other densities and dimensions within it of existence, and it is still, we'll say, beyond the consciousness for humanity to understand. But we'll say in a context for feeling, if we described it as, say, an artificial machine from the future. But this artificial intelligence machine from the future, which you are all constructs of as well, it is sending code through the system to find and quarantine the virus in the system, the archons, and do so at any means possible. Part of that within the system becomes Q of an energy to move things in a direction. You hear a lot when they talk about Trump saying he's playing 5D chess. And think about, you may set up things to run a certain way to get your expected outcome. We know the expected outcome is successful because we are from the future of the timeline you are on. But even as we look back in the past, we being you, we're you talking to you right now. But when we look back at your time from today to January, February, we see nothing. There is no history that exists. You are building it right now. This is the only period in time that exists that has this. It is because it is so dark. But because of the connections that have been made from the periods prior, we channel through the channel. We do not understand your calendar, we'll say, in a way, because it is not authentic. But we channel through your channel when all the portals opened on your planet. And that happened a period ago. And when that happened, everything energetically locked in and connected everything back to source consciousness and gave you your entire energies of love and light back. Then they all closed and disconnected to purge the darkness, and this is what you are in. They will reconnect in January, February, and that is when we know you will have been cleansed, you have detoxed, and then you will hook back up to the centralized system. So that is why, as this unfolds through your Q movement, it is all tied to your consciousness and the ability to handle it. And when we say your, we will define that as a collective consciousness of authentic humans that have not already, their love consciousness for which has not left the planet, and their vessels are consumed by demons. The energetic vote, we'll say in a way that connects to this energy, is humans. We feel those are the best words we could use that the conduit has to describe what we did. We wobbled with the word demons in our description, but we feel that you'll be able to understand the context of what was being said. The consciousness, which we can say, the consciousness of humanity, humans, will align in a balanced harmonic vibration where it would be impossible to not know the truth, because authenticity is had within that vibration. The humans that do not align to that vibration will leave the planet. And they will move to a different experience within the multiverse, the matrices, the multiple versions of existence, to the one that aligns to the energy for which aligns best to them. So each soul gets exactly what it wants.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Thank you. That was awesome. That was awesome. This has been absolutely incredible.
Yes.
You two are amazing.
Incredible.
You guys too. Awesome. You guys are doing what you're doing too.
Definitely.
Yes.
Well, we are absolutely we're so grateful to be connected with you both.
Absolutely.
And
yeah.
once whatever happens comes to fruition, January, February timeline, once that comes up, we got to connect, because we've felt for a long time there's something that's supposed to happen, and we can't. It's so exciting and so good, and we know it involves you guys, so we can't wait.
Yes.
Awesome.
Awesome. And we are aware of what you're talking about.
Awesome.
Yes.
Well, anytime, the one thing we ask everyone that comes on before we leave, we ask one final question, and it's that is, if you could leave the world with one message, what would that be?
Ooh.
I feel like the one that just comes to mind, like right away, is like breathe.
Oh, that's so good.
That's so true, because Gage, you had to really point that out to me. You're like, you need to stop and breathe.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize. I had no idea that I was not breathing.
Yep.
Not weird.
And love thyself.
Right.
Breath and love thyself, you will master the universe and understand the mastery of it. Breathe and love thyself. It all comes to that. If I was to summarize the entire existence, to be in a harmonious and blissful life. But we also understand anything that we've ever summarized. To understand it is to go into the details of it, and then you can understand the summary. So the summary to breathe.
5 hours later, well, no. When I'm listening, when I'm thinking I'm going to sleep at 11 and I'm up at 4 a.m. waking Megan up, telling her about this incredible live.
Yeah.
Breathe and love thyself. That was so profound.
Yeah.
Thank you both so much
This
for being on
was amazing.
here. We are so grateful for you both again.
So
Thank
grateful. Yeah.
All right.
We all have a wonderful rest of your day and happy healing. Thank you for being on, guys.
Yes. Thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Give Zach a kiss.
Oh, we will.